It seems like he requires more care than you realized. Yes, 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 yes. But that is actually completely normal, and there's kind of two reasons for that. One is if you haven't done this, there's no real way to be ready for it, and it's gonna be more than you realize. Um, in my case, especially, I wasn't around him, I wasn't living in the same town, so I had no idea what kind of shape he was in. But regardless, bringing an elderly parent, especially one that does require care, into the house, if you haven't done it before, it's going to be more than you realize. And secondly, especially the beginning is kind of, it's hard for everyone. It's hard for you because it's new, and this is a whole bunch of new stuff that you have to do. But it's also going to be, at least in my case, it was super hard for my dad. And because you're taking someone who's 83, who is in all of his habits and his rhythms and his whatever you call them, habits, daily habits, and you take him out of that into a completely new world. And it's hard for me at 39, but it's especially hard for someone who's 83 years old, maybe losing a little bit of that mental plasticity, as they call it, I believe. And in the first couple of days when things were particularly rugged and he was just out of it and I didn't really know what was going on, I did start to look around the internet and see kind of what to expect. And what I found a lot of was mostly articles about when people put their parents into a home, but it's the same kind of thing. It's a period of settling in, and the different kinds of things you can do to help them with settling in and getting used to the new situation. And oh, I got a car coming, I gotta move out of the way here. And so that was something that actually is what I was dealing with having him in our home. Oh, there we go. Is giving him the time to settle in. And a lot of that confusion comes from nothing being the way you're used to it being. And so, yes, definitely more care than I realized, and that's absolutely normal. And here we are. Yeah, so my dad, he's 83 years old, and he just a couple of weeks ago moved from Portland, Oregon in the United States to our tiny little chalet up here in the French Alps. And the trip itself was really hard on him, and he'd been kind of declining for the last couple weeks or months before he left because of a lot of stuff that was going on in America, and the reason that he needed to leave, that he didn't have anywhere to stay or any people there. All of that put him in pretty rough shape. The trip, Portland, Oregon, way on the other side of America. They canceled his flight the last day, like a couple days before he was supposed to leave. We had to reschedule and just add a leg down to LAX for no reason. And then he flew from there all the way across the ocean. That's where I picked him up in London. I flew up to London to get him. And the trip was really rough on him. We ended up spending an overnight in the hotel in London so we could do the last little leg the next day. And then the first couple of days were also really rough. He was in really rough shape from the trip, from those last couple months. And it's, like I said in the opening, it's a bit of a shock to the system for everybody. For him, definitely. And then for us receiving, for me in the caretaking role, and even for my kids. The last couple of weeks have been a little bit of a rodeo, a little bit of Wild West. I'd wake up in the morning and have, sheets to change or laundry to do, or find the ice cream in the dishwasher. And like, he's been moving around. Mobility's getting a little bit better, but he always uses a walker, or in the middle of the night, he'll just grab a chair and go. He's been going back and forth from his bedroom to the living room, where we have this big mechanical chair, and lazy boy, comfy chair that can mechanically recline. And so he's been actually sleeping in there a lot. And I'd find all the kitchen chairs just all over the house because he'd just be using them as walkers. So the morning would be a little bit of disarray. But what's really interesting is that was really there really was the first couple of days just a period of kind of everyone finding their marks and figuring out how this was going to work, and him slowly getting his strength back. We eventually put that big comfy chair in his room so he's not going back and forth to the living room. Ordered a new one to put in the living room so that he can sit with us. So the mornings are a little bit less chaotic, and he's definitely just more lucid in general. Not all the time, but the first couple days, the first week or so, was, I think, the biggest thing to get used to. Especially I don't know if you've seen the other videos about this, but in my case, he was in America, and so I really didn't get a sense of how he was doing. So I saw a little bit of the confusion when I was there this summer. He actually got COVID and was in really rough shape. So I saw, a day where he was completely out of it. But then when he got here, to see that, periods of that every day of just of kind of profound confusion, just kind of standing up and not knowing where he's going and sitting back down and standing up. We went out, I'd get him down the stairs, and then we'd go out, even just to go sit outside in the sun. And then when we'd go back in, he'd have his walker, this big wheeled walker, and he would just start trying to figure out how to take it up the stairs. Stuff like that, stuff like, when he said he has to go to the bathroom, I said, okay, it's this, and I kind of point him where it is. 30 seconds later, you got to point him again. That extreme short-term memory loss, 10 seconds later, not knowing where you're going. That kind of stuff is just unusual if you haven't dealt with it before. And he's upbeat and chipper, so there's not this kind of profound sadness. It's just figuring out, when do you step in? When do you need to really, take him by the hand and walk him through something? And so that has been interesting. I mean, it's I see it with my kids now. What he'll do is he's got this mechanical chair, like I said, and he's got two buttons, one to lie down and one to actually help you sit up. And he'll be trying to get up and hitting the wrong button and just going backwards. And, or he'll be almost fully reclined and then start trying to lurch to get up. And I've seen my son go over and say, Grandpa, are you trying to get up? Can we use the chair? And he'll take it and hit the button and start showing him and then hand him the remote. So it's that kind of stuff of getting used to it for everybody, which is, I think, the hardest part of the first weeks, and the fact that he just was in such rough shape. So all the hardest, worst parts of it were on display, just kind of constantly. And that has been tapering off, thankfully. So this is the third video in this series. The first one I made before he came. The second one was right in the middle. I've actually filmed part of it from the bathroom in the airport at Heathrow. And this is kind of the update of after it's been almost exactly 2 weeks, I think. The update of how we're doing. The second video, especially even the first two, got nobody's seeing them. They're not, the algorithm doesn't like them, and they're not popular on YouTube. But the few people that do see them, I've gotten a lot of really wonderful responses, and I really appreciate that. And so this is also kind of the update to people who are kind of following along and trying to, see how this goes. Part of the reason I'm making this is for other people who are in this situation or may have it coming, is to just hear other people's stories and know that yours are, not, you're not that isolated. And this is, there are just so many people dealing with this. And even looking around YouTube, there's very few people just telling their stories about it. So the update officially is that things seem to be doing a lot better. Like I said, the hardest parts of it are not constant. The kind of every second like stress or anxiety of, do I need to be watching them all the time, or what's going on, that just kind of eases. A lot of this kind of strangely definitely reminds me of having a newborn or a young child. It's all new, you don't know what to do, you just have to figure it out. You're worried all the time, and then you slowly start to figure out, like, you just got to let it do its thing. And then especially, I mean, the difference between when it's your parent and not your child is this is just where he's at in his life. And it's not that you have to, there's not really the expectation that, like a child, that you're going to raise them to the point where they're autonomous. You're going in the other direction. And so that also, I mean, that's where what helps some of that worry kind of go away, is that this is normal. I just read something from I think it was a British Olympic cyclist who just got diagnosed with cancer at like 48, and what he said was, as unnatural as this seems, this is nature, and that is true. This is how it goes. So that's the update. I'd say things have stabilized into a kind of, optimistic place where we are saying we have seen things get a little bit better. And so that kind of gives us the hope that maybe they will keep getting better. So now we're pretty much back to where we were kind of before we came, but it's real. And that is the cautious optimism that with a little bit of luck, we can get a couple of months or maybe a couple more and kind of get to a sense of normal where Pop being here is kind of not an ordeal or something else to do, or it's just kind of in the rhythm of how our day goes. And I think that's what's starting to ease off, is it doesn't feel like something new and arduous and kind of hard to deal with. Starting to just feel like that's how life is, and that's kind of what we're going for.